A very good morning to all of you. I welcome you all to session number 40 of our Sunday webinar series. And initially, this series was meant to be a 40 session series, but because we still have a lot of topics to cover, a lot of speakers want to present their sessions, and we have participants coming every week. So, we have extended it to a 50 session series as of now, and session number 50 will be on Perfected, which will be presented by the founder of Perfected, Daniel Human. And today's session is a continuation of the Excel session that Murugraj Shanmugam had presented last month. So today it's like Excel for editors, part 2. So over to you, Murugraj.
Thank you, Vivek. And as someone rightly identified, the 50th session is going to be a great coup with Daniel Human to be presenting Perfected, one of the tools that help editors or editing life. So that's a great achievement for our series of webinars, I would say. The travel series has seen a lot of big shots in terms of people who carried out a lot of travel and other things, but editing, this is one of the milestones for our series, and congratulations for it. So today I would like to talk about a little more on the Excel topic. Okay, so basically last time we created a table and the related information that are needed to create a table. So right now what I'm planning to do is to focus on a couple of things. One is formula and the other one is data handling. So before I move on to that, what I have in mind. So I wanted to ask what exactly you would like to see in, or you would like to understand in terms of Excel's features. Because it's a very small team today, I think it's possible for us to have more interactive session today. Anyone can start. And what is one or few things that you wanted to take it up in Excel?
Hi, sir. Divya this side.
Hi, Divya.
Sir, I would like to learn VLOOKUP and some of the basic formulas that are necessary for day-to-day work for reporting purposes.
Okay.
Averaging, and although I have done averaging, but it will be a good idea to have a quick revision because we don't do it very often at our end.
All right.
VLOOKUP, of course, I want to know how we call the data from another sheet.
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? What did you have in mind when you logged into the session today?
I thought you will be telling something.
Yeah, of course. See, one of the positives of having a smaller participation is to be able to talk to, the participants, which may not be possible in a larger crowd. Okay. So today, for whatever reasons, we have a 9-member team today and 8 excluding me. So I thought it's a good idea to hear what you want to say or what you have in mind.
No, Murugraj, some of us are at a very foundational level. So whatever you teach us is really, my learning is at a very, very superficial level. So even last week was a revelation for me. The last session was a revelation for me. So we are happy just for any knowledge that you might impart. Mine is at the very low level. So maybe some others are more skilled.
Thank you. Thank you.
Like for me, it's like I always mess up with the general mathematical formulas and especially that decimal thing. Sometimes I doesn't want the decimal to come, like places after decimal. So mathematical things and second thing would be how to, go for graphs, basically, like simple graphs, simple presentation of, simple data, not like much complicated something, but then if we can learn something about, presentation, normal line graphs and maybe bar graphs.
Okay. All right. Relating Excel and Google Sheet would be a point to cover. All right. Thank you. Interacting between Google Sheets and Excel. That's always a good idea because Google Sheets is kind of rudimentary Excel. What Excel was 10 years ago is what is Google Sheets now. So a lot of features that are that we can easily use, that we can use with ease in Excel cannot be used in Google Sheets. That's a good idea to talk about or think about how we can make how we can create an interaction between Google Sheets and Excel that we will see. Yeah.
What I want to learn, Murugan, is like to make a sheet in which you estimate how your work is flowing. So if you have a formula, so many pages, I've done so many per day, I'm doing so many per hour. Okay. In how much time can you finish that particular? Like you've got 3-4 jobs happening.
So more of
you
a
can
projection.
have a sheet like that.
All right. Super.
The book has, you understood what I'm saying? The book has 500 pages. You are doing so many pages a day. How much time are you taking per page or whatever? And how much time would you complete those jobs if you have 3 or 4 of them?
Yes.
Happening simultaneously.
Super. Okay. So a couple of good pointers. I think what Divya started is what I have in mind to start for the day today. So what I had, we will talk about lookup functions. VLOOKUP basically, even though lookup functions are many, VLOOKUP is the most commonly used one. So we will see how the lookup function works and what are the other combinations and what are the drawbacks of lookup and how we can overcome the limitations. Okay, briefly again. So this is going to be a session to cover a lot of basics. So so obviously,
what about pivotal tables and all that, Murugan?
I think the charts that Ruchika asked and the pivot tables, we can cover them as independent standalone sessions.
Okay.
Okay. In fact, pivot tables as such, for Excel is a great tool. You convert something into a table and you have achieved many of the things that you would normally find it difficult. Auto fill and filtering and other things, it becomes a much lot easier when you use tables, basically. Pivot tables are extracting data. You have a data table and you want to cull information. All right. You wanted to retrieve information so that you can analyze. So pivot tables play a very good role. But for whatever reasons, I have used a lot of templates, in the sense a lot of specific tables I created for ad hoc purposes. So that way I find it easier. I find certain aspects of pivot tables less suitable for my needs. So I rely a lot on creating tables with built-in formulas. Okay, but it's a great tool. We will possibly cover pivot tables and charts as independent sessions later. Let's see how it evolves over the period. As Vivek rightly said, we have moved away from 40 to 50 now. Probably we should move away from 50 to 100. And it's possible we are getting regular support in terms of presenters, and there is regular patronage for most of the sessions. So it's possible. There is no reason we believe why it can't be. So let's take a sheet. Yeah, we will talk a bit about data session. A data module today. All right. So first of all, I would like to talk a little about the formatting. One that Ruchika asked. one common mistake that people do. Okay, so first of all, you can see that if there is nothing specifically made, it is considered a general format. Okay, you can see that it is general here. You can format this as a number or as a rupee or a percentage value by choosing the options available here. You know this is a very basic thing. Okay, what most of the times people miss out is that, let's say we have a fraction here. Okay, you may sometimes hide these fractions by decreasing the decimal levels. Okay, you can increase the decimal levels by going left, or you can decrease the decimal by going to the right, which means it will mask the decimals and rounding off to the nearest thing. Where people go wrong is to assume that what we see is what we get. Unlike in a WYSIWYG feature, Excel presents something but has a data behind. For example, this is still 7,855 with the decimal value of 3535. You can see that here. You can see that the decimal value is there, but when it is presented, you don't see that. So when you multiply, the decimals are also considered for calculations. All right. So sometimes what happens is you have a 3.34, 3.33, 3.33. Okay. You can mask the decimals. Okay. And then keep it to 3, 3, 3, and 3. When we add them, we would get what, 9 or 10? What do you think we will get?
We have just masked the actual number still exists, so it should be 10.
Yes, that's the right thing. Okay, we may think that, okay, because we have removed the decimals, we have actually not removed the decimals. We have formatted in such that the decimal is not displayed. Okay, so if you really wanted to provide the numbers without decimal, you have certain options. For example, you can round them. Okay, you can round the number to the number of digits that you like. For example, you can round it to 1 digit or 2 digit or no digits at all. So in our case, let's say we round it to no digits. So this is 3. Okay, now if you look at it, I'm going to copy this and then say this is a value. You can see that these numbers are simply 3 and 3 and 3. When you add them, you will get 9, not 10, because we have taken only the integer part of it. We have rounded it off. Sometimes you may want to not round off to the nearest integer. You can choose to round it off to the next integer, the next higher integer, or the next lower integer. So you can use options like round up, and then number of digits I keep it as 0. So you can see that all the digits are rounded to 4. The sum becomes 12. Or you can round down and then to 0 digits. You can see that you guys know that the shortcut key to insert sum is Alt equal.
And where did you get these commands? Like you just gave few commands like round, round up, round down, sum, and a list of them. So where
very good. See, first of all, you should have familiarity to the formulas that are available. That's number one. Okay. Once you know the formulas, you start typing, it will auto fill. All right. For example, if you want to use a VLOOKUP formula, so I start writing V, and all things that start with a V, pop up. And as I type in, it will filter to the data based on the characters that I typed. So I have typed VL, and the only formula that is available with VL that starts with VL is VLOOKUP. So I see VLOOKUP formula. So I press tab so that that formula is selected, and then start inserting values. Okay, and how do you remember all of these values? How do you remember all of these formula? That's another question, but it is very intuitive. As I always say, be it Excel or MS Word or most of the MS Office suite functions, they are built intuitively. You ask a question, there is a 99.9% of possibility that it is already answered. All we have to do is simply find how to do that. Okay. So, for example, in this case, I wanted to do a rounding off. All right. So I type equal to indicate that I am typing a formula. Okay. And then I start typing round, ROU. So the moment I started typing ROU, I get three options: round, round down, and round up. And against each of these options, it gives a very brief explanation of what it is. For example, the cursor selection is on round function, and it says rounds a number to a specified number of digits. Okay, and you can come down to round down. It says rounds a number down towards 0, which means on the lower side, decreases, and rounds a number up away from 0. Away from 0 in the sense it rounds to the next higher number. Okay, so you can choose which one is needed for our purpose and then select it. You can use the arrow key, up arrow and down arrow. Okay, so you can use up arrow and down arrow to select, actually move between the possible options, and then use a tab. Okay, so once I am here and then I use a tab, the function will get filled, and we will move to the values, the variable part of it, the parameters that we need to fill in. So the number is the actual number that we wanted to. Most of the times in Excel, we are not very much interested in absolute values. Very rarely do we use them. We will be referring to some other cells in our work. So we say, I refer to this cell. Okay, that's what we call a reference cell. And then we give the conditions. For example, in this case, num digits refer to the number of digits for which. So if you are not sure, you can just click on that. You will get information about what it is. Okay, so I need 0 digits or I need 3 digits. You can. So it is, what did I say? N6. One digit. Oh. Round number to the number of digits. 1. It should actually say 3.3. Why is it not? Oh, okay. I have probably selected this. Okay. So the number of digits is formatted as 0 digits. That's why. So you can see that the original number that I have here is 3.340. On the other hand, when it is rounded off, there is a decrease in the number of digits. So you only see 3.3, not 3.34. You can go with the same option and then use round up. So you see 3.4. Okay, it is rounding up by 1 digit. So 3.3 becomes 3.4. If the number of digits is 2 here, it rounds up to the next possible digit. Which one I am referring? N7. Okay, so it should be N6 so that we see the same number. Okay. So it depends on the number of digits that we wanted to see. So because there are no more significant digits after the second digit, there is no variation at all. Okay. So where do you find these formula? One way is to just click on that formula here. The moment you click on the FX to indicate formula, you get an insert function. So if you're a beginner and wanted to explore formula by trying to ask a question and then get answers, you can say average. Okay, so and then you say go. You find all possible cases where average is part of the calculation, from the very basic thing to the most complex thing. All right. So one of the most important things that you should remember is the right kind of formatting is used, and to check that the decimals are properly considered before you move on. Okay, so what you see may deceive you. You have to be careful with the with what you don't see, what is masked behind the formatting. Okay, so talking a bit more about formulas. We go to the formula tab. Okay, so we have seen last week, in our last session about the defining names, right? You remember we selected a list of editors and then created a name panel. Okay, so you can find all the name panels that we created. Okay, for example, there is a table 2. Okay, so it's a table. So if you wanted to give some formula, for example, I have this number here, number of days, working days, number of hours, hourly fee. Now we wanted to calculate monthly billing. Okay, so you have number of working days, let's say 22. Number of hours is per day, number of hours per day. Okay, let's say 7 hours, and then hourly fee is 750. Okay, now we need to find the monthly billing. Okay, so the monthly billing will be, the formula. So 22 into 7 into 750. You look at it, this is all Excel reference. You can make it a little more readable form or human readable form. For example, the fee is rupee value, the other two are number value. So you can go to the home tab and then format that as rupee. Okay, my default language for Excel I am using is Indian English. Therefore, the moment I clicked on the money value, I get a rupee symbol here. If you are using, let's say, American, as a default formatting, you will get a dollar symbol here. All right. So you can see now that when I multiply these, okay, this has to be formatted to a value. So you can see that it also takes a paisa for decimals. Decimals for paisa. Now what you can do is, this is P2. Can you see that this is a P2, the cell reference P2. You can give a more readable name also. For example, working days. Okay. You can give this as daily hours. And then you can give this as hourly fee. All right. Now you can define the formula anywhere by start typing the references that they have created, the names that we have given to each of these parameters. For example, number of working days is, okay, you can see along with the functions that are already available by default. Excel default function, you can see a table like icon appears followed by working days. This is what we created now. Okay, so that's a name that we created, working days. Oops. Working days. You can see that the reference automatically goes there into number of hours per day. You can see, what did we say? Number of hours per day? Daily hours, right? Yeah, daily hours. Okay, so daily hours is there, and then hourly fee. So we get the same function. The only difference is that instead of P1, P2, P3, we have working days into daily hours into hourly fee. Can you see it here? So earlier for here, I'm sorry, here we are looking at Excel reference values. On the other hand, now we are looking at the names that we given to them. So we easily understand by looking at the formulas, we easily understand. See, P1 into P2 into P3 doesn't make a lot of meaning unless we go to this reference and then we find out. Maybe in a small reference tables like this, we can easily move around within the screen and then find out. But if you are managing a lot of data, you have to move a lot around the sheet. Okay, so sometimes we may have to go to 1,000 cells away from the home cell or 1,000 cells down, and then trying to figure out what it is, it becomes very difficult. So you can use name manager to define the variables and then use them in a much better way. It makes easier calculations. Okay, you can define any number of such things. Okay, so that's one thing. And how do I know the name of them? So there are a few ways to do that. One is by just clicking on the cell. I can see can you see the name box here? The name box changes to working days instead of the cell reference. If I keep my cursor in any other cell, if it is not already defined, you will see the default cell reference. Okay, when a name is given to a particular cell, then that name appears here rather than the default cell. Okay, so this is one way. So this is useful when you are in a particular cell and wanted to see if the cell has already been named. What if you want to find what are the various names that you have created for that sheet or workbook? You can always go back to formulas and then go to name manager. You can see that earlier we saw only table 2. By default, all tables are named references. The moment a table is created, Excel will consider that as a named reference and then it will be created by default. Now you can see that the additional 3 names that we created for the cells, right? Daily hours, hourly fee, and working days are also included. So you can know what are the various variables that we named, okay, in our worksheet.
How did we reach this name manager thing?
On the formula tab, there is a grouping called defined names. Okay. So under name manager, you can see that.
Okay.
You can create, edit, delete anything here directly. Okay. So if you want to create names from here, you can just referring to planner P3. You can say, let's say P10. Okay, and this daily you can see that it is actually highlighted here. So this is more like editing. If you change it to P10 and then close it, okay, it is asking you whether you want to change it. Yes, you can see that P10 now becomes daily hours. The daily hours that I already said is not now defined, it becomes P3. So you can make changes here in the name manager itself. So this is one way where you can make these formulations, these formulas much better if you are dealing with a lot of data. Okay, and then you have formulas. Okay, we'll go to formulas here. So as some of the formulas that are more useful is sum, okay, count, okay. So these are all straightforward. You sum a few, okay, for example, you sum these, all these things, you get the value here at the bottom. Okay, how do I get list of formulas? I'm coming at it now. Okay, so let's say we have this total pages. We wanted to see the total number of pages. You select them. You can see them here. You can say sum of all these formulas, sum, and then select it. You will get the sum of all numbers here. So this is a plain vanilla version. You simply sum it. But life is not easy. You wanted to put in some conditions. You wanted to find under conditions what the sum is. So we call them conditional formulas. Okay, they are followed by the word if. Okay, so we have something called sum ifs. Okay, sum if. Okay, you can see that there are two possibilities. One is a simple sum if, and then there is a sum ifs, which means you can increase the number of conditions to as many as you like. Okay, if with the sum if possibility, it is simply a range. So this is the range that I wanted to find, and then the criteria is it should be let's say what, less than 50. Okay, I am going to type less than 50, but you will not get the okay, I'm sorry. So if you wanted to find the sum of these pages, provided a condition is met in another column. I'm sorry, I missed it. Okay, so earlier we saw how to find the sum of a particular column. Okay, so you simply say sum and then you give the parameters. There is only one possibility. You can see that the formula itself says, where are we? Have we filled in so many columns? Okay, so you can see that it's simply number 1, number 2, and so on, which means you simply give numbers. On the other hand, you can put in a condition and then find a sum in another column. For example, I want to find the number of pages that were edited. Let's say, what are the various months we have used? July, June, May. Okay, so May, June, July, August, up to November. So let's say we will find out all the, sum of the pages that we edited after July. Okay, so you have to say sum if what is the range for which I am going to put the condition, which is the sent date. So in the sent date column, if my criteria is less than 1st November, okay, and then I wanted to find the sum of this particular column. I'm going to tell you that this is not going to work. This formula is not going to work, but I'm just saying, okay, so November. So this says, no, there is some problem. It is not, it doesn't look like what you think you are going to get. All right. So what is the problem here? The problem here is the condition less than 1st November. Okay. 1st November is a date, and then you cannot use it as a formatted value. If it may be new to you, or you already may know this, any date, any time that is converted into a fixed number in Excel. For example, today's date is 7/2/2021. Okay, you can see the number value by simply going to the number. So Excel considers 44234 as today's date, provided you are formatting this as a date. Okay, so earlier You can see that the format here is date. Can you see that? If you simply write the number 44234, it is simply a number. You can see it is general. Excel doesn't consider any formatting. It has something called a general formatting. It simply stays the way you type it. If you want to give instructions to Excel to consider your input in a particular manner, you have to format it. For example, you can format this as a number. So I say number. The moment I say number, you can possibly give further instructions, refine your formatting. Number of decimals, 2 decimals. Okay, I say, let's say we go for 5 decimals. And then it will give you examples of how various numbers will look like. Okay, if it is a negative number, it will look like -1, 2, 3, 4 point, and then there are 5 digits and so on and so forth. Okay, if you want to use a 1000 separator, yes. Okay, so right now we are formatting this cell as a number. Earlier, by default, it is considered general. Now you can see that this is going to be formatted as a number. And I have given specific instructions that I need 5 decimals and then thousands should be separated. Therefore, you see 44,000, 234 period or decimal followed by 5 digits of number. All 0 because we don't have any decimal number. You can format this as currency with 2 decimals, and then the symbol that you wanted to use. Okay, you can use any of these symbols you can see here, and I'm going to default it to rupee. So you can see that there are 2 decimals with the rupee symbol in front, and this rupee symbol is again by the formatting. Or you can format this as a date. There are 2 different types of formatting. It's a short date where the numbers are given, long date where words are used instead of months. Okay, so I say 7th February 2021. But for Excel, in whichever manner you do that, in whichever manner you express it, to see that the value that Excel holds is the same. It is simply 44234. And depending on how you want to express that, Excel will consider the way the calculations are done. Okay, so for example, I also say current time 11:38. Okay, 11:38, you can see it is a custom time. Okay, and if you want to see the number associated with it, it is 0.48. So in any particular day, 0.48 would refer to 11 hours 48 minutes. Okay, so why are we talking about this here? The reason why the formula went wrong in the first place in our SUMIF formula. So I cannot use simply a number. So I need to find out what is the number associated with 1st November or end of July is our goal. So anything before 1st November. So 1st November 2020. And then I wanted to see the number associated with it. 44136. Okay, so here I'll go edit the formula as SUMIF, which is the range I'm talking about. Send date should be less than, what was the number there? Forgot, huh? So 5 digits, difficult to remember.
44234.
Very good. Thank you. 44234. So again, 44234. And then the range, some range that we wanted to see is total pages. Okay. So do you think we will get the answer now? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe not. It is still a problem because you cannot combine this operator simply with a number. So you have to go for something called concatenation. So you remember in our last session, we talked about how we combine cells, combine values. So that's exactly what we are going to do now. So we are going to consider this as a value or as a condition that we concatenate with the value here. So we say within double quotes and then ampersand. When I say anything within double quotes, it takes a text value. So and then ampersand. Now we get 4247. So this is a simple sum if value wherein I find the sum of a particular column provided a particular condition is met. Okay, so we can extend this idea to any number of conditions. That's where the plural form comes into play. So sum ifs. The only change is that the sum range appeared at the end here. Okay, so this is a sum range, total pages. On the other hand, when you talk about multiple conditions, it will be in the first place. So sum ifs, the sum range is this, and then we talk about different criteria. For example, I wanted to find out all the pages that we received in July and then delivered in July. Okay, so in date, okay, so it should be received in July, which means we need the number for 1st July. And then we wanted to find out all things that were delivered in July, which means we need a number for 1st August. All right. So the numbers are, so we say sum is, the sum range is this. And then I'm giving the first criteria, which is the end date should be greater than or equal to July. It's a simple mathematical manipulation. For example, you can say 1st July includes, or you say 30th June after 30th June. So it's simply the way you manipulate numbers. Because I have taken 1st July value here, I'm going to say greater than or equal to. We need to include the first date also, and then combining that with the number here. And then the second criteria is same delivery date less than or less than this one. So we get 785.825 pages completed that were received on or in July and delivered in July. For example, we can filter them to see this. You can use Alt and down key, arrow to bring this up, and then I select July. And also I wanted to see all the dates that were in July. Okay, so the number of pages will be, you can see 786 here. Okay, which is exactly what it is rounded off to 786. It is 785.825 because we have some decimal values. You can see where these decimal values appear. Okay, a lot of decimals are here. So you can easily extend this idea. So these are all very manipulations. For example, you don't have to keep this as a number. I kept this as a number simply because we need to refer back and then use it here. So you can just format them as date itself. It will not create any change to the way it is calculated, because in whatever way it is expressed, as I said earlier, Excel will look at each of them as number. Okay, So this value will not change. That's number one observation. Number two, you can create something. I mean, I usually say, if I wanted to find the number of pages that we delivered in a particular month, so you can define the the date that you want to refer to at the beginning of the table, somewhere at above the table, so you can refer it back. Okay, these are all, the way you wanted to use it. Okay, there is no one particular right or wrong method. It is how you wanted to look your tables and the Excel sheets to be. So you can extend this idea to anything else. For example, we have used sum for this, for this particular condition, anything that we received in July and completed in July. And if you wanted to simply count the number of articles or number of chapters that you delivered rather than the number of pages, you can go for a count. Okay, so you will say count if. You can see there is no sum range because we are not summing up anything, we are simply counting. So the range is, again, the in date should be like this, and then the out date should be less than this. Okay, so we have two numbers here. Let's say we have, I'll use it here so that we will see the numbers. Okay, now you can use the count formula, if, and then ifs, because we are having multiple conditions. So the first criteria is to see the in date greater than or equal to this date, 1st July. And then the second criteria is less than the first date of the next month. Okay, and then you close it. Have 32 chapters delivered on a particular date. Okay, so you can extend this idea to many such formula. For example, we have conditional. So these, someone asked where we can see the list of formulas or functions. So you can, this is where all the formulas are. This is a function library. So this is where all the formulas are listed. Okay, under heading. Okay, they are categorized under different heads, and then they are all provided here. For example, here sum. Okay, and there are financial related formulas. Okay, and logical formulas if you wanted to check conditions. All right, and then text formulas. You can convert text to numbers, numbers to text, and then, for example, there is an equivalent for an F3, shift F3 that we use. That is, change case function that we use, but maybe not exactly the same as the way we use in MS Word. But let's say I have Indian Copy Editors Forum. I don't want this to be all caps, so I can say, if I want this to be title case, we can say proper, and then this one, you can see that the first letters are capitalized. But again, the same way MS Word treats, it will not differentiate between whether it is an article or a preposition or preposition less than 5 characters. So those things will not be considered. It will simply convert everything. Okay, and you can convert the other way around also. So a lot of you can find the length. Length is another function that you will use it. For example, I wanted to find the first 5 characters in a particular cell. So you say left of this particular cell, how many characters that you wanted to see? Let's say 5. So it will only say India. You would have already guessed that we can use the right function also. So what would it say? If I say right and then 5 characters, what would it say? Hello.
It will say forum.
Yes, absolutely right. What if you wanted to find 5 characters somewhere in the middle? Can you find that? Do you think that Excel can give an option for that?
I guess middle.
Middle, yes, that's a good guess. That's a smart guess actually. But there is a mid, okay, not a middle, mid. And then we would say which string to find. But unlike left and right, what is the one difference when we talk about mid?
It will consider the space as well as a character.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But when I say 5 characters in the middle, which 5 characters? Okay, this is not exactly a midpoint that Excel talks about. It will consider any 5 characters given where we wanted to start.
So it won't take the size of the word into account anyway.
You need to indicate where you wanted to find, I mean, where you wanted to begin the 5 character string. Okay, so in the first 2 cases, left and right, we simply give the number of characters that is required because there is a clear indication for the starting point. When you say left, from the leftmost character, 5 characters to the right. When you say right, the rightmost character, 5 characters to the left. All right. So when I say mid, I need to indicate where I wanted to start. So let's say I wanted to start at C, which is the 7th character. Indian is 6, and then as Ruchika rightly said, the spaces are also calculated. So 7 characters. I wanted to begin on the 8th one. So the starting number, you can see there are prompts for you always. Okay, so 8, and then number of characters that we wanted to say, let's say 4, 6, 8, 11. So you will get copy editors. Okay, you can combine this into a single name by concatenating. Okay, this, and then concatenate, and then concatenate. What is the only problem that we'll encounter with this formula?
Parenthesis missing.
Sorry?
Won't be any spaces in between.
Yes, there will not be any spaces in between. So if you want to include spaces, so you will say India, and then can I say a space and then and?
No.
Will it work?
It would go wrong then.
Yes, so you have to add spaces as a text within double quotes. So anything that you wanted to indicate as a text, you will use that within double quotes. So you will say India ampersand. I need to add a space. Oh, sorry. And then another ampersand. So you are not actually concatenating only 3 cells. You are also adding another
Space in between.
So if it is 6 characters here, we would get Indian copy editors for. Okay, so you can play around a lot with respect to text. You can find the length of the character, length of this. For example, you say length returns the number of characters in a text string. It includes spaces. So there are 24 characters. Again, you can find okay, concatenate we have seen. So number value is the number associated with a particular. So we have A. So you say number value. Okay, no, I think this is not what I think it is. Converts text to a number in a local independent manner. Okay, this is not what I thought it is. Sorry. Okay, and we want time and difference. So there are a lot of possibilities to work with times, especially when Quora talked about how I can calculate the number of projected hours or days pending for a project. So we would have to use a lot of formulas in terms of dates. Network days, it depends on. I mean, it returns a number of working days between two dates. So you give 2 dates, and then it also talks about international work days, which means whether you are going to use what constitutes your weekend, whether you are going to add a particular day or not. You can include holidays in between, and then you can exclude them. So a lot of possibilities to work around date. And lookup reference, again, a lot of options for you. And VLOOKUP is something that we would spend some time now. All right. So I wanted to find, let's say I have this table. I wanted to find out, what do I say? Okay. I want to find out who completed a particular chapter in a particular book. Okay. So I'm going to create something like, so the simplest way is, if I wanted to find out that will involve a combination. I don't want to go there. Okay, so let me add a temporary thing. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 standard. 4, 5, 3 pages, and then it is received yesterday, and it is due today, delivered today, and it is by Murugan. Okay, so this should be something. Okay, now I wanted to find out who did Datta. Okay, so you simply say VLOOKUP. Okay, V, as many of you might already know, stands for vertical. Okay, so you are going to look up in a vertical manner, column wise. Okay, so VLOOKUP is followed by the lookup value. Which value are you interested in looking up? Okay, so I'm interested in looking up who completed the front matter for the book Datta. Okay, so obviously this condition is a combination, cannot be achieved with a single VLOOKUP, but I'm going to, because I have inserted a unique value for Datta, I use the word unique here because it is very important. I'm going to simply say Datta here, which means this cell reference here. Okay, or if you straight away want to find out, if you have the name in mind and then you want to look up, so you simply say Datta, and then in which table that you wanted to see. So I wanted to find this in this particular table. Okay, so table array is this. Okay, and then how many columns away from this particular name the expected value will be. For example, this is the name of the editor. This column K refers to the name of the editor, indicates the name of the editor, and the value that I am looking up is the name of the author, which is located in column B. So how many columns is this editor name away from this? So 1, you have to start this as the first one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So 9th column from here. And then whether you are going to talk about approximate match or exact match. When you use approximate match, it will take up anything that is closer. Exact match refers to the value that is exactly given in the first parameter here. Okay, so I need to find an exact match, therefore it is false. Oh my god, what happened? Oh, is it? What is going wrong here? One, two, three, four. It is the 10th column, not the 9th column. So it would be, as it is a text string I'm using. Oh. Give me a minute. I'm trying to figure out what went wrong. I see this. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. We look up. I have Datta as the name of the author here. I wanted to find the editor who is responsible. So I am using VLOOKUP to find the value Datta. And then in this table array, and this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 columns away. And then I want an exact match. So we can see what goes wrong here. You can zero in on by auditing the formula. So it looks for Datta, so not a problem. And then this is A1 to L173. So the region it is defined is also not a problem. And then something goes wrong in the reference.
See, should it be A? Because your starting point is column B, right? So, should you start with A?
No, I think the reference value should be the first column.
Then you should not include A, I suppose, right?
Oh, okay. I have included A. All right. Thank you. That's right. So this is VLOOKUP. The column, first column should be the column where the information is available. Yes, that's right. Thank you. So, yeah. Okay, I didn't tell you where to look up, what to look up. So VLOOKUP, the value that I wanted to look up is the name of the editor who completed the work of the author Datta. So Datta here, and then you have to select the region where the name of the author becomes a first column. Okay, and then a region that includes the name of the editor. Okay, it is not necessary that the name of the editor should be the last column. You can have any number of columns. For I can extend the table to the right to any number of columns. That's not a problem. And then the number of this will be the 10th column after the author name. So yes, okay. So the first column should always be the column where the reference is made. All right. And another problem with VLOOKUP is, one problem, yes, another limitation to VLOOKUP is that you cannot go left. You can only go to the right. So you can combine index and match formulas to bring out the expected result of moving to the left, but it is a bit advanced at this stage. Okay, so VLOOKUP is something like VLOOKUP, what to look for. Okay, what is the reference? And then where to look for, and then how many columns away, and then how should the match be. So if you answer these questions correctly, we will get the VLOOKUP formula correct. Okay, so the reference here is the name of the author, Datta, and our table, our reference area where to look for is actually this table, but the first column should contain the lookup value, that is the reference value. Therefore, you cannot take the entire table, but only the part of table where the first column is the name of the author. And then how many columns away? So this is the 10th column. The name of the editor is the 10th column from the name of the author. Okay. So if you wanted to find out when I completed that, when I delivered it, okay. So you can see, what should I do? What should I look up? I wanted to find when Datta book was delivered.
Sent date.
Sorry?
Whatever the column says, sent date.
No, okay, let's fill in the formula. So my goal is to find when Datta book was delivered.
J173.
Okay, so is it G?
J.
No, you are directly looking at it.
Yes.
No, I'm talking about writing the formula to do that. So what is that? What is the name of the author that you are looking for now?
Datta, and it goes back to B.
So it is this name. See, you have to remember, it is not B173.
Why?
You have a reference table.
Yes, if I want to, that's
you want. So you go ahead.
Related there only, like at B173.
If I am already there in the table, I can just see it, look it up there itself. Okay, but that's not the goal. I have a reference table. I have a starting point. I need to find out something from the table. All right. The starting point is given somewhere else. I wanted to find out. Okay. So Datta here is a starting point, not at this place. Okay. Let's say there is another. Okay. So let's say we have Shiva, and then so this is ISBN, and it is light. Okay. So we talk about bibliography, and this is 6,000 pages, and it was received on 6th February. It was due 6th February. It was delivered 6th February. It was done by, let's say, Vivek. Okay. Now you need to find out. This is a starting point. Okay. Your question is
anywhere randomly. I'll write.
I'll tell you. My question is, who edited or when was Shiva bibliography delivered? Isn't it? So the starting point for me is Shiva bibliography. And as I said earlier, Shiva and bibliography are two columns here, but for the sake of simplicity, I'm having only one entry in each of these cases. I'll tell you what happens when there are multiple entries. because we are looking at the name of the author, it will take only the first entry. Okay, so let's complete this first. So I wanted to find the book by Shiva. Okay, so that is my starting point. My goal is to find when it was delivered. So we will start with the name of the formula. I want to look up along the columns. We look up. So we need to start with F191 because that's my starting point. And then my area should be the table where the name of the author is the first column. And then you can take any number of columns. So this is a delivered date. So I can stop at the delivered date, or I can go beyond to any number of columns, not a problem. So I'm just, yes. So there are 9 columns, or this is the 9th column. The delivery date is the 9th column from the author name. And then I need an exact match. So it is 44234. If I properly format it, I'll get 7th February. So this was delivered on 7th February. Okay, and you can do this activity row-wise also. That's an easy guess as what that formula could be. What could be?
HLOOKUP.
That's it. So that's a HLOOKUP. For example, oh, I'm sorry. So I have a HLOOKUP. Everything else is same. So instead of columns, you will talk about rows. So your reference value should be on the first row rather than on the first column. So you have to go down to any number of rows, which includes the target row. You know, for this case, the target column is delivery. So you have to create the table or a region where this delivery date is included. You cannot have a table that does not include the delivery date. For example, I can use, if I say instead of P, which contains the name of okay, so if I create a table where up to the O column is taken. Oh, okay, so I have added any number of columns. So it should be, let's say J. It will say a reference error, which means the value that you are trying to refer is not at all in your table. Because your table that you have defined here, B1 to J7, it contains B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J. Sorry. Your lookup value is in the F column. All right. So F to 10 would be F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O. So your reference is on column O, whereas you have included only up to J. So what you are trying to look up is beyond what you have defined. Therefore, reference error. Okay. So as I said earlier, there are other reference values also. For example, you can find the address of this particular Excel sheet. So you can, if you want to see address of A1. So A1 refers to, okay, what did I say? 1, 2, which means 1 refers to the so address 1, 2 refers to the row and the column numbers. Okay, so you can see the row and the column numbers. if you wanted to find the place where this particular file is available, I think it is path. I immediately think you can. What version of Excel are you using? I'm using 2016, but I think from 2007, most of these versions, most of the things that I'm talking about are available. Okay, so I was thinking about a function to find the path where this particular file is located. Is it file? No. So there are a few other things also.
Should I use a formula to locate that?
What? Sorry?
Should I use a formula to locate that?
That's nice. Our quest for automating things or find things easier will never end. Okay. So you would have seen that I have briefly used the evaluate formula. You can trace dependence, in the sense you can find out where these formulas are referring to by tracing precedences. You can see that. So these are the areas where my formula is using. So my formula goes to the author name to this place. So these are the various places where my formula is referring to. So if you are not sure what are the parameters, what are the variable cells that are involved in your formula, you can use trace precedence. On the other hand, okay, you can remove arrows. So you can go to this one and then find out what are the various cells that use this cell. What are the various formulas that use this particular cell? You can go to trace dependence and then see, you can see that there are two cells where this particular cell is using, is being used as an input. You can see the formulas by showing formulas. So it will convert all the values into formulas in your cell. Okay. And what else? So with these two things, I'm going to stop it here. All right. The charts, inserting charts and then talking about pivot tables, they can be considered as independent sessions. So let's see in future sessions. I think another session for me is opened up in March. So possibly we can take up one specific topic, maybe charts, and then see what the most important thing about charts is the choice of the chart, first of all. So when are you going to use a pie chart? When you will use a bar chart? When will you use stacked bar? So the most important thing about chart is the choice of the chart and then using it effectively. Okay. So the first one is a common sense logic, and the second one becomes our expertise with Excel. So we will talk about how to choose charts and then how to use them effectively in Excel. All right, in one of our upcoming sessions. Okay, so I'm also thinking of a series of I don't know how to call it or how to name it. So maybe not more like a word a day. I'm thinking of using Excel options to be circulated. All right. So every day we will spend some 10 to 15 minutes talking about one point, but not as a formula. All right. So I'm not going to say sum if. So posing that as a question. What do I do, or which formula should I use to achieve this? More like a case study, minor case studies. So it will happen from Monday to Friday on weekdays, okay, over a period of time. I don't have any specific thing in mind, so I'm just thinking aloud. I just thought of it some time ago, a couple of days ago, and see how this can be converted into a practical daily workout. All right. So hopefully you will hear from me in a few days, and there will be some Excel quick bites every day on all weekdays. All right. Any questions from you?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes, please.
When we are working on journals, we publish a list of reviewers at the end of the year or the start of the year.
Okay.
Yes. Generally, we have to arrange those names alphabetically by surnames.
Okay.
So Divya Munjal and Divya Gupta. So Divya Gupta will come before Divya Munjal. So is there anything by which we can alphabetize only surname, although I have kept them as Divya Munjal, Divya Gupta? So normal sorting will not help in this case, because normal sorting goes by the first word, and sometimes there are middle names also. So what in this case, this year I sent it back to the typesetter and asked them to arrange it. But I thought there should be something in Excel or Word.
Yes, I was hoping that you will not bring in the complexity of middle names so that I can give you a quick answer, but then you brought in that also. All right. So if safely assuming that there are middle names, you can separate the a name into its first and last names into 2 columns, and then do that. Or another possibility is to copy that column into data segregation, the cell where you can separate by. But again, that will not work if there are middle names and only first and last names. So I think we need to seek a VBA help to achieve this.
Okay, so they typesetters might be doing it with VBA and not with Excel.
No, you can.
No, Excel.
Split it. Okay, even if you have say first name and middle name. I mean first name and last name, third name, and or 3. Okay, first split the column into 3.
By through data handling, right?
Okay, in column you break it text into 3 columns. Okay, and then you alphabetize it based on whatever column you want, and then concatenate it if you want it. You understand?
For example,
you understand what I'm saying, Divya? See, suppose you have a column, you have names, and that I'm assuming you will have it as first name and then word space and then last name.
So let's say.
But sir, if the list has been received in Word as a list of names, for example, list of 10 people that have joined the call today, there will be Divya J. Munjal and there may be Divya Munjal. So I don't understand how to break. I got the list in Word file.
No problems. Put it into Excel, split it into columns.
Okay, all you have to do is just copy paste it on Excel. All right. So you can go to text to columns and then fix it with characters next, and then space, not tab, and then next, finish.
Okay.
Okay, maybe we have.
So, can you do that again, Murugavel?
Yeah, all we have to do is.
I want to see how to do.
Okay, so I have selected the column that needs to be separated. Okay, if you want to add a few names, what could be your middle name?
J. Bhatia.
K. All right. So what I have done is select the column and then go to text to columns, and then there are two options, delimited or fixed width. Fixed width, obviously you can understand them to be number of characters to be defined. So I am looking for some clues as to separate them. So my clue here is a space. So my first choice is delimited by characters, and then I need to choose which is my clue character here, which is a space. And then you can see a preview of how this will work. So if you want to do any formatting, you can do that here. Otherwise, it is simply do that. Okay, so the only issue here is that you have the name. I mean, you have the, if there is no middle name, so the second one is automatically taken as a middle name. So you can overcome this by, if this is empty and then I don't do anything. Oh, sorry, if this is equal to empty, then I'll go to this. Otherwise, I'll go to this. So I'll have this. All right, now I'll copy them and then use them as values. So you are going to sort by the last column only, right?
Right.
The last name column.
Yes.
So I can sort A to Z. It will ask you whether you want to expand the selection. Yes, I do, because the first name should also be sorted accordingly. All right, I've got this. Now what I will do is I'll go back and then bring them into one name by concatenating. And I need a space. And then the last name. Okay, so I have to include this. Concatenate.
Then F.
I think this will actually create some problem. So this will create a duplication for Murugaraj. Yeah. So you have to go possibly what we can do is
Raj,
But why is it not arranged alphabetically by surname?
If E is empty, move D to.
sorry?
If column E is empty, or rather column D will have to move to E if E is empty. That's all, no?
Yeah, so we need to put in another condition here.
Yeah.
So, Murugaraj, question here is, why is it not arranged alphabetically? It is still in the same format. Although we ran the sorting thing by surname, it is still not in alphabetical order.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The purpose was to arrange yes.
Sort based on F, A to Z. Yes. The problem is when you simply sort and then tell Excel to expand the selection, by default it will default it to the first column for selection. I mean for sorting.
Okay.
Okay. So you have to work around by selecting the region and then going to that advanced sort, so you can find this here, custom sort, and then choose the column that you wanted to sort. Okay, so let's say Z to A, so that will take my name. So by default, it will be the first column under which the sorting is done. Okay, so the point here is we can do some workaround, and the same way we have identified the spaces, the empty cells to manipulate first name and surname. We can go back, reverse engineer, and then do that name also.
Yeah.
Or alternatively, what we can do is so we can concatenate these two first. Okay, and then concatenate these. Oh, the space is missing. Done.
Yes.
So it's just sort of manipulating the different ways, separating and then bringing it back to one cell.
Okay.
Do you want me to define it again? Any of you?
It was useful. Yeah, got it.
Okay. So, but again, all of this can be converted into a single macro, a simple macro, and then click of a button, it is done.
And then he sorted it out.
I'm sorry?
Cora had a question, I guess.
Yes, Sora.
Sorry? No,
Did you
no.
ask
This was really useful. How to convert from Word to Excel.
Okay.
It's really useful.
Murugaj, I came a little late, 5-10 minutes late. Joined the session. See, you had the first sheet, and then second sheet you had some dashboard and billing and something. Did you cover anything there?
And then you sort it out.
No, we haven't built on the dashboard.
Okay, we have not gone into the second.
Yeah, because I mean, obviously the idea is to create this table.
Okay.
Okay. Am I sharing the right one?
No, we are having the whole.
Okay. So the idea is to create a table like this, so that at the end of the month we have, or at any point of real time, not even end of the month, at real time, we wanted to see, considering this is a team, where we wanted to find for each editor how many pages have been completed or done. So create a dashboard kind of thing. So.
Murugaj, is it possible to convert a complete invoice which has come in Word into Excel, or that would be too complicated a process?
Theoretically, yes, but we need to look at the way the invoice is structured.
Okay.
Okay. So if there are table cells and if there are simple paragraphs, so the combination will create confusion in Excel.
Okay.
We can do that with some cleanup, but not simply a copy paste will work.
Okay. So this one you just copy pasted the word onto the Excel and then you separate it out by space.
Yes. If there are multiple columns, you can convert it into a Word table and then copy the table into Excel.
So those semicolons, every semicolon, inverted column indicates one space. The one where you did an and two, and those semicolons.
I actually physically introduced a space between the two.
Okay, so what was those inverted commas that you put?
The double quotes. The double quotes indicate that I am inputting a text character.
Okay, so you have to put that in. Or it happens automatically.
Yes.
Okay.
Otherwise, Excel will not consider or recognize that as a text and get confused, and then it will not return the right answer.
Okay, so you have to put an and, actually give space, and then indicate those open and close quotes.
Yes.
Okay.
So I cannot directly insert a space because Excel would not recognize that. So I have to tell Excel that I am inserting a physical space by indicating, I mean, by using opening double quote and a closing double quote, which means that I am using a text character here.
Okay. And when do you, and what does two brackets? Here you've indicated with two open and close quotes. When you close a formula into a bracket, what is the difference?
So that's an indicator for the beginning and the end of the formula parameters rather.
Okay.
So every formula will have parameters. So where exactly the parameters begin and then where it ends. In fact, as we have nested formulas, as we call them, okay, so there will be formulas inside formulas. Okay, so we need to ensure that these nested parentheses, these parentheses are properly nested. Otherwise, Excel will get confused.
Thanks.
All right.
The only thing I knew about Excel was sum and total.
I mean, see, the most important thing is,
that's all I know about Excel.
Yeah, so the need is the most important thing. Necessity is the mother of invention, as they call it, right? So there are a lot of other things in the world that we do not know because we don't need them. Okay, and there are a few things we can spend some time or money to get things done. But if you are going to do some things day in, day out, and you wanted to be proficient at it, then we need to become familiarized. We need to, get familiarized and then start using it more effectively. That's the idea.
When you start, you'll be forced.
It's really interesting to learn more about Excel.
Dr. Venkat?
When you start leading a team, you will be forced to learn Excel.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. All right. So it was good talking to you, and see you next week. A lot of further sessions are lined up for the upcoming weeks. So see you all next Saturday at 4 p.m. Have a good day and happy weekend.
Thanks a lot, Murugan.
Thanks a lot, Murugan.
It was quite an informative session.
Thank you. Thank you, Divya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.